Hearing is resumed. Congressman Bong Teves.
Mr. Chair, pwede bang mag-manifest muna na sana habang nagsasalita po ako, wala mo ng interruption?
Okay, please, to all the members and our resource persons, please take note of the request of Congressman Bong Teves. So, earlier you have 7 minutes, now you have 6.5 minutes. Please proceed.
Nababawasan yung oras ko eh. Colonel Asierto, nandiyan pa ba siya? Nasa Som pa rin siya? If wala, may I ask Mr. Chair to former President, kilala niyo po ba si Colonel Asierto? Hindi ho. Ano po ang sagot?
I don't know him. Hindi ho.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Kasi kanina, habang nasa SOM at biglang naputol, tinanong po natin si Colonel Asierto kung bakit siya wala sa Pilipinas. Ang sagot niya, dahil siya ay ipapapatay.
Saan po siya?
Wala sa Pilipinas.
Kaya nga, where is he?
Hindi po natin.
Baka alam mo.
Okay, anyway, tutuloy ko na lang po. According to Mr. President, hindi niya kilala si Jimmy Cuban at hindi niya kilala si Mark Taguba. Pero si Jimmy Cuban po ay former Custom Intelligence Officer at si Mark Taguba ay custom broker na siya po ang nagsabi na may nahuling 11 billion worth of shabu through magnetic lifters sa Port of Manila. At ang kasama doon po ay si Congressman Pulong Duterte, Attorney Manscarpio at Michael Yang. Okay. Ngayon, according po sa ating former President, Mr. Chair, kailangan daw nating ma-invite o ma-physical na tanungin yung mga involved na persons. Kaya may I manifest that we invite next hearing Mr. Jimmy Cuban and Mark Taguba and also Congressman Pulong Duterte and Attorney Manscarpio para personal niyang matanong kung ano ang sinasabi ni Mr. Jimmy Cuban at ni Mr. Mark Taguba regarding sa sinasabi na nahuli sa Port of Manila na 11 billion worth of shabu at 6.4 billion metal cylinders worth of drugs.
Mr. Chairman.
Before I recognize Congressman Paduano, there's a request of Congressman Bong Teves to invite the persons he mentioned and COMSEC, the whole secretariat of the Quad-Comm. Please take note and send invitations to the persons mentioned by Congressman Bong Teves. Before before you proceed, yes.
Chairman, just with due respect to Congressman Teves, this is just a matter of clarification. Kasi po, if giving due courtesy to a colleague in the House, we should not invite, I think it's just proper, Mr. Chairman, that we should not invite Congressman Pulong Duterte. He should be present voluntarily if he wants. Just giving due courtesy, Mr. Chairman, to a colleague in the House.
The COMSEC is directed to send notice to our colleague Congressman Pulong Duterte to attend the next committee hearing of the Quad-Comm. So please proceed, Congressman Bong Teves.
The next question po, Mr. Chairman. According to our former Senator Trillanes, piki ang war on drugs ng ating dating Pangulo. Bakit po kaya sinabi na piki in war on drugs? Siguro pwede nating tanungin si former Senator Trillanes, bakit nasabing piki ang kanyang war on drugs ng mga nakaraang administrasyon?
Have you taken your oath, former Senator Trillanes? Please administer the oath first of Senator Trillanes before we ask him questions.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this congressional inquiry? So God may help you. The oath has been administered, sir.
Okay, thank you, Comsec. Please proceed, Congressman Bong Teves.
According po kay former Senator Trillanes, sinabi po niya na piki ang war on drugs nung panahong administrasyon ni former President Duterte. May I ask to former Senator, bakit po niyo sinabi na piki ang war on drugs?
Ang statement po na yon na peke po ang war on drugs ni Duterte noong nakarang administrasyon. Ito po ay bunga nung nakalap namin na impormasyon at ebidensya nung kami ay nag-iimbestiga nila Senator Delima at dun sa aming sariling pagkalap na impormasyon at base na rin dito po sa testimonya, Mr. Chairman, ni Arturo Las Cañas sa ICC na naisumite niya at nagkaroon na rin ng kopya dito po sa Quad-Comm at doon sa kanyang video sinabi niya po na ginagamit lang ang war on drugs ni Duterte para takutin ang sambayan ng Pilipino at takutin ang iba't ibang sektor ng lipunan para hindi siya paghinalaan dun sa kanyang sariling involvement sa illegal drugs. Kaya nga siya na-mention po na siya ang Lord of all drug lords. Ito po ay sinabi niya na mga kasabwat ni Duterte ay sina Michael Yang, Charlie Tan, Sammy Uy. At ito po si Michael Yang ay ayon mismo sa report ni Colonel Acerto na dating Deputy Director of the Drug Enforcement Group of the Philippine National Police. Sinumite niya yung report tungkol sa involvement ni Michael Yang. Dito naman po, dun sa sinasabi niyo po, Mr. Chairman, na si Jimmy Guban na Customs Intelligence Police, sinasabi niya na si Michael Yang ang involved doon sa magnetic lifters na shipment. Ngayon po, lahat po yan ay nakalap namin. Pero ngayon po, kung dahil po doon, tinignan namin kung ano yung ebidensya na pwede naming malink ito. Kaya nga po, binalikan namin yung mga bank accounts na nakalap namin kay Duterte noong 2016. Tinitignan namin kung merong mga pumasok na pagkapirahan dito po sa kanya. At doon nga po kami nakakita na mga deposito sa mga accounts ni Duterte galing po dito po sa grupo ng mga drug lords na ito. At kung papayagan po, Your Honor, meron po akong PowerPoint presentation para po makita po nila kung ano yung sinasabi ko na money trail, paper trail dito po sa drug proceeds ni Mr. Duterte and his family.
How many minutes will be your presentation?
Ano lang po yan? 5 slides lang po ito. Pero I will focus on the last slide lang ho.
Sige,
Mr. Chairman.
Sige, go ahead, Mr. Trillanes.
So, ito po ang sige, doon po sa mga unang slides muna. Ayan. So, ito po yung mga bank accounts na nakalap ko po ito noong 2016. Tapos, ito po ay na-validate na ng ombudsman na kaparehas nga nung naisumite ng AMLAC sa kanila. Kaya ano po tayo, kumpiyansa po tayo sa provenance nitong dokumentong ito. So, sige po, next slide. Ito po yung mga iba't ibang mga pumasok na pagkapirahan kay accounts ni Duterte. Tapos, sige po, next slide. Ayan. So, ang total po ng mga credits na pumasok ay 2.4 billion, no? Ngayon, kung ano talaga yung actual total, malalaman po natin yan pagka binuksan po yung accounts. Ngayon po ito, no? Ang pagkakamali po ni Mr. Duterte nung nagtatago siya ng pagkapirahan ay ginawa niyang joint account yung kanyang anak na si Vice President Sara Duterte. Kaya ito po ay alam po naman natin na exempted sa bank secrecy law ang impeachment. So lalabas po yan lahat. Sige po, next slide. Ito po yung last slide, no. Dito po, meron po ito pong mga transactions na ito. Meron pong kay Vice President Sara, meron po kay Duterte, meron po kay Baste Duterte, meron kay Pulong Duterte, at meron po kay Hanilet Abansenya. Ito pong mga ito ay mga managers checks under their name na ang origin po ng account ay yung isa dun sa mga drug lords na minention ni Las Cañas na si Sammy Uy. Ito po, ano ito? Siguro noong mga panahon na yan, 2011 to 2013, medyo kumpiyansa sila sa kanilang mga gawain, kaya may physical na checks, no? Pero after that, ang mga deposito diretso na sa account, so wala nang paper trail. Pero makikita natin dito yung pattern po, Mr. Chairman. Nagdidibidendo yung drug lord dun sa pamilya nila Duterte tuwing October at April, no? Kaya sunod-sunod po yan. And by the way, makikita po natin si Vice President Sara, meron po siyang 2 checking in-encash dyan under her name, manager's checks. Tapos ito po ay while she was mayor, no? Kaya yan ay direct bribery, no? Tapos proceeds of the illegal drug trade. Ito po ang naging pruweba natin. Kaya nung cross match po namin yung dokumento na kuha namin at dito sa mga personalidad na minention po ni Arturo Las Cañas, na-confirm namin yung kanyang istorya. Nakita niyo po dyan, si Duterte, pareha sila ng amount na in-encash, no? Tapos, itong mga anak, sila Baste Duterte, ayan po, tagte 10 million every 6 months. Kay Pulong Duterte, meron din. Ngayon po, lahat ito ay hawak yan ng mga bangko mismo. Meron silang physical copy, meron silang soft copy netong mga sinasabi na ito. Kaya hindi po yan pwedeng i-deny lang kasi alam naman natin yung mga estilo ni Duterte, mag-a-admit konti pero magde-deny to confuse everyone. Pero ito po yung smoking gun, Mr. Chairman. So, yan po, we concluded na peke talaga ito. Ginagawa niya yung war on drugs para proteksyonan niya yung sindikato niya na sina Michael Yang, Sammy Uy at Charlie Tan. So, kaya po nung sa Davao pa lang pinapatay po nila yung kompetensya. Tapos nung sila na ang presidente, ginawa nilang National Death Squad, yung nangyari. Tapos si Leonardo nga po yung ginawa niyang point person. Tapos yung drug list na sinasabi ni Duterte, merong legitimate mga personalities doon, galing doon sa mga iba't ibang ahensya. Pero pag may kailangan silang isingit ng mga kalaban nila sa drug business, sinisingit po nila doon. Kaya nga may mga tinutumba na mga involved din sa illegal drugs kasi kompetensya nila yon sa distribution. Kaya yan po, lahat na yan ay napagtagpi-tagpi namin. So, kaya that would explain kung bakit protektado si Michael Yang kahit na may report itong si Colonel Asierto. Tapos hindi lang po yan, nung nilabas po yung report na yon, sa sobrang pagproteksyon nila kay Michael Yang, yung mismong gumawa ng investigasyon, yun yung gustong ipapatay at sinampahan ng kaliwat kanang kaso. Kaya makita natin dun sa mga drug lord na hindi kasabwat sa sindikato ni Duterte, ano siya, porsigido siyang patayin, pero doon sa kanilang grupo, itong mga ito na mention, Michael Yang, Charlie Tan at Sammy Oy, protektado hanggang ngayon. Ni nga si yung PDEA director ni Duterte na si Wilkins Villanueva, ni hindi nga masama sa drug list hanggang after noong 2022 si Michael Yang. Yun po ang dahilan kasi binilin po sa kanya yan ni Duterte. Salamat po.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, please proceed, Congressman Teves.
may I
Mr.
ask
Chairman.
the former President kung alam niyo po ba na kinasuhan po ni former Senator Trillanes sina Congressman Paulo Duterte, Attorney Manscarpio for drug smuggling?
Hindi ho. Pero kung totoong drug smuggling man sila, they should be prosecuted in court. And if convicted, they should serve sentence in jail. Hindi ko pipigilan yan. Kung totoo. Ngayon, yung narration dito ni ko kilala itong taong to, forgot his name. Your Honor, if there is an iota of truth, ayuta lang, baski konti lang, you can find out, may nilagay siya ng records. Now, I'm willing to execute an affidavit or kayo na lang to summon the banks pursuant to my waiver. Kung may totoo lang maski isa, I will hang myself in front of you. You can summon, I will sign a waiver, all banks, pati yung World Bank ng Amerika. Kung may isang totoo lang nakiting, I will resign and I will ask my daughter to resign and everybody in the family. That is my guarantee. And I will hang myself.
Mr. Chairman.
May I know,
Mr. Chairman.
Sir.
Dali sige, sorry, Congressman Paduano, sige, you and then Congressman Teves, and then I will allow you, Senator Trillanes, after the two members have spoken. Yes, Congressman
Thank
Paduano.
you, Chairman, with the indulgence of Congressman Teves. Ganito lang po, because Senator Trillanes presented yung mga bank accounts. May I ask this good former senator, how did you acquire these documents, bank documents?
Nung campaign po noong 2016, meron pong nag-abot sa aming opisina na ang pangalan po niya ay Joseph de Mesa, in-identify niya. So sinabi niya, meron siyang mga dokumento na pwede namin tignan. So kampanya po yon, hindi po namin nabigyan ng atensyon until siguro a few weeks after, nakita ko po, yun pong nandoon, iba't ibang accounts. Then, chinek namin, binalidate po namin kung totoo yun, no? So, may mga nagdeposito po na doon sa iba't ibang accounts ni Duterte. Tapos totoo nga, legitimate po. Then, nung kampanya, nilabas ko po ito at inamin mismo ni Duterte na totoo daw kasi una, dinideny po nung kanyang spokesman, but eventually, nung na-corner na siya, inamin niya. No? Tapos, hinamon din niya po kami na magbibigay din siya ng waiver. It's the very same dare na sinasabi niya ngayon, o bluff na sinasabi niya. At ano po, ako po ay nagpakita dun sa BPI branch na yon sa Julia Vargas, pero siya po hindi sumipot. Ang sumipot sa kanya, itong si Panelo. Ngayon si Panelo, wala pong dalang waiver. Ang nilabas niya, special power of attorney na may specific conditions. Ngayon po, natapos na lahat yung kampanya, presidente na siya, ni ay ni oy, wala na po nangyari doon. Kaya ito po, inadmit niya na yan, mga dokumento na yan. Inadmit niya na yan, no? And let me just comment a bit, Mr. Chairman. Kasi yung sinasabi niya, in relation dun sa case na final ko kay Pulong tsaka kay Manscarpio, sabi niya, i-file daw sa korte at harapin nila. Pero yung mga libo-libong mga pinagpapatay never got that privilege of the due process. Pagka wala ka sa grupo niya, hindi ka sa sindikato niya, protektado ka. Kailangan mag-file sa korte. Pero pagkakaribal ka at ordinaryong Pilipino ka, tutumba ka. Yun lang po, Mr. Chairman.
Man, can I have my follow-up question?
You have the floor, Congressman Paduano.
Former Senator Trillanes testified that that document was not acquired legally. It was just given to him, and with that, Mr. Chairman, though he might appreciate that bank records, but for me, Mr. Chairman, I am not a lawyer, but with regards to how authentic is the bank documents being presented to us by former Senator Trillanes, we must ask the AMLA, Mr. Chairman. So, with that, Mr. Chairman, unless Senator Trillanes can present to us another document that bank records came from an authentic, competent agency of government, Mr. Chairman. In this case, it's the AMLA. Now, Mr. Chairman, so with that, Mr. Chairman,
This is a very serious accusation. So,
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair,
Congressman
point of order.
Paduano has asked the floor, but with the
Yes.
indulgence of
No, I think the chairman has ruled a while ago the sequence of those people present in this hall to answer.
okay.
I think we must follow that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for reminding the chair, Congressman Acop. Now, Congressman Paduano, please proceed if that is your last.
I am sorry, I thought that you were tapos na.
Thank you, Mr.
thank
President.
you, Mr. President. Anyway, Mr. President, now with that, Mr. Chairman, and the former President has, a while ago, has a commitment to waive his right with regards to all the bank accounts that was mentioned by former Senator Trillanes. Now, Mr. Chairman, pwede naman parallel yan, AMLAC, at the same time, yung waiver, if the former President will sign a waiver with regards to all those bank accounts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I will sign it, the document, tomorrow. And I will hand it kasi magagawin pa ng abogado. But I said, if there is an iota of totoo yung sinasabi, I will hang myself in your presence. I will invite you all to be a witness.
Okay, thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
Congressman Paduano. Si Congressman Bong Teves, and then I will allow former Senator Trillanes after Congressman Bong Teves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is my last question. Siguro naman, First, Mr. President, lahat po na tinanong ko po sa inyo ay galing po yan kay Mr. Jimmy Guban. Not for me. At kasi po ay na-invite na natin siya rito bilang isa sa mga resource person sa mga naunang hearings. And then, may I ask Mr. President, for my last question, given na po na na-acquit si former Senator Laila Delima sa mga kaso niya tungkol sa drugs. As now, Mr. President, naniniwala pa rin po ba kayo na si former Senator Delima ay queen of all drugs lords?
Sir, I go by what is the reality of the day. Pag sinabi ng korte, inosente si Delima, inosente si Delima. Wala tayong magawa dyan. Kung magsabi ang korte, guilty si Duterte, wala rin kayong magawa dyan. That's a democratic process.
Ibig sabihin po, nagkamali tayo ng pag-akusa kay former Senator Delima. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Okay, former Senator Trillanes, you are now recognized.
Maraming
May I-
salamat, Mr. Chairman.
After, Mr. President, after the former Senator, the Chair will recognize you po.
May I be given...
Yes, yes. Going to the bathroom? Okay, okay. We'll have a 2-minute suspension. I'm sorry. Hearing resumed. Mr. President, you will be reacting to the
Yes, sir.
query.
Sabi, Delima na acquit?
Yes, ang tanong natin kanina is na-acquit po si si Senator Delima at sinasabi po ni former President na kung ano ang hatol ng batas ay 10 ang masusunod. Ibig sabihin, nagkamali po ba ang ating dating Pangulo sa pag-akusa kay former Senator Delima na siya ay isa sa mga queen ng drug lords?
Sir, saan mo narinig yan? Bigyan mo ako ng kopya. Saan mo narinig yan? A recording or a newspaper. Pangalawa, sir, nakalimutan ko na tuloy ang iksuhin. You know,
Do you need, Mr. President, a moment to...
I'm just collecting my mind, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Naipon na kasi.
We'll give you time, Mr. President. For the meantime, the Chair would like to recognize...
May I
Yes,
ask
sir.
for a recess of just 1 minute?
Yes, we'll give you a 2-minute suspension. The hearing is suspended.
Hearing resumed. Mr. President,
Yes, Your Honor. Nalilito na ako kung anong sabihin ko. Pero sabi ko kung if I'm lying or if my statements are falsely stated, or if there is an iota of magbigti ako. So, in the same manner na kung magbigti ako si Trillanes, dapat magsabay rin sa akin.
okay, duly noted of your thoughts, Mr. President. Former Senator Trillanes, you're recognized.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Chairman. Ito pong dokumentong ito po yung naging basis ko nung plunder case na final ko kay Duterte noong 2016. At ito po ay inimbestigahan ng Ombudsman at ang Deputy Ombudsman Arthur Carandang, and I think the Quad-Comm can invite him. Siya ang nag-conduct ng investigation. Humingi siya ng dokumento sa AMLAC at kinonfirm niya. And because of that, tinanggal ni Duterte si Deputy Ombudsman. Now, aside from that, so pwede natin, suggested by Chairman Paduano, na yung AMLAC mismo, unless, since hindi naman na siya incumbent, pwedeng ma-access yun with the waiver. Pero we've been there before. Nagsabi na yan siya na magbibigay siya ng waiver. Puro bluff yan. Pero hindi, kaya nga mas maganda kung ma-draft na po natin yan ngayon para papirmahan niya yan dito, no? Para wala ng alibay. Pero ito po, I'll be presenting later on, Mr. Chairman, a video of his actual admission of these accounts. No? So, ito naman pong mga cheque na in-encash, in-extract lang namin from that long list. Mga managers' checks po yan, hindi nawawala sa system po yan. And later on, exempted sa impeachment cases, kaya pwede po lumabas yan, ipepresenta po yan. That's the smoking gun ng proceeds of the illegal drug trade ng Duterte crime family. Salamat po, Chairman.
Thank you very much,
Sir, I have to
Senator
respond
Trillanes.
to it. This
Former
guy
President,
is
with all due respect, I'll have to follow the rules. Yeah. I will give you time later, Mr. President. I will give you time later. Just so that we can put to rest this issue of waivers, because it's been going back and forth. Will the former president be okay that if we draft the waiver now, that it be signed today instead of tomorrow? Will you be fine with that, Mr. President?
Anong kapalit, sir?
Hindi.
Sampalin ko siya sa publiko.
Hindi, wala naman.
Ngayon na.
Wala pong ganunan.
Mr. Chairman.
I'll give you sasampalin ko sa
Mr. Chairman.
Session suspended.
Session suspended.
Order, please. Order.
Please observe proper decorum. We are in a committee hearing. We have already stressed from the very beginning that the proper rules, decorum, will be implemented regardless of who you are. Regardless of who you are. We live by a set of rules in this committee, and those set of rules will be followed, and those set of rules will be implemented.
If I may.
Wait, session, it's still suspended. It's still suspended.
Sorry ho.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Hearing is now resumed.
Chairman?
Yes,
Chair.
SDS.
Mr. Chair, may
Mr. Chairman, may I move,
with
Wait,
priority?
former
Mr. Chairman.
President,
I just would
Yeah.
like to apologize for the unbecoming behavior. Init sa ulo lang yun.
thank you very much for your apology. It is accepted, and I hope that the others beside you would also observe proper decorum. So, but thank you very much for your apology. SDS and
Mr. Chairman,
Gonzalez.
may I move to strike off the word sampal on our record?
There's a motion to strike off the word sampal in the records. Any second to that? Second, any objection? There being none. Comcheck, you're duly instructed to please strike out that word.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secondly, hindi po basketball ito. Yung mga meron ang nag-aaway, yung mga players, kalmante lang po sana. Hindi na maulit yun. Salamat, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair. Just a
Congressman Adyong, I'll just give Attorney Degra a minute. I think he's been raising his hand.
Yes,
But before I recognize you, Attorney, can you kindly turn off the mic of the former president para lang hindi tayo nag-aagawan dito ng... Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the outset, I'm here among the resource persons because I was invited to be one of the resource persons, mainly, as mentioned earlier, as an item in the administrative matter to explain the circumstances of the two letters that we sent to the Quad-Comm on behalf of the President. So I am also not only a resource person here, but also acting as the legal counsel of the former President. That said, we have reviewed the agenda item for the 11th joint public hearing And I hope we would be able to put things in context insofar as how the proceeding have gone through until now. And I noticed that insofar as what has been going on for the last 9 hours, this would only be limited to item 4, 5, and 6 in relation to the alleged extrajudicial killing in the Philippine campaign against illegal drugs during the previous administration. That said, Mr. Chair, we would like to be clarified because this is a legislative inquiry in aid of legislation. May we know what proposed legislation is being set on the table for the committee to consider and for the resource person to contribute their valuable inputs, if any, so that we can avoid incidents like what we just saw earlier, so that it will be meaningful, intelligent, accurate, and hopefully not accusatory in character.
Yeah,
so that it will be positive.
Yes.
And as I've said, meaningful discussion, so that we'll be able to come up with effective legislations, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Actually, with regards to your point, Attorney Degra, 2, or if not I'm mistaken, 3 bills have already been filed with regards to the Quad-Comm hearing. Isa po dyan, may kinalaman sa forfeiture of illegally acquired properties, 1. Number 2, may kinalaman po sa EJK. At saka yung pangatlo po, may kinalaman po sa heinous crime. So, these investigations being conducted by the Quad-Comm has actually brought about a lot of legislation already. Other than that, our members are also looking into amendments of existing laws so that we can strengthen the institutions and the agencies by which the government operate in. Other than that, mapapansin po natin just very recently, naglabas po ang administrasyong ng ating Pangulo ng EO para sa implementation ng total ban sa Pogo. So, with that being said, Attorney Degra, Congressman Adjong?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just like to ask Senator Delima, are you comfortable in your seat, Senator? Because earlier when there was a small incident commotion, I saw you froze for a bit. Are you comfortable in your seat? We can transfer you if you want.
I'm not comfortable, but I can stay here.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just concerned with our.
I'm not afraid at all.
Yeah.
Thank
I'm not.
you.
Yes. I'm just saying that for a little bit, I think you froze.
Salamat
And
po. Salamat.
I'm just concerned.
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator.
Congressman
Mr. Chair,
yes, Chairman Benny.
I cannot help but say this, no. I'm a little bit insulted by the statement of Attorney Delgra. Is he trying to question this committee on the pieces of legislation that we are trying to prepare? Mr. Chair, I'd like to find out because it seems to me, Mr. Chair, that he does not actually believe in what we're trying to do. Now, Mr. Chair, Attorney Delgra, my committee, the Human Rights, have at least 5 bills that ought to be filed. And it is not our duty to tell you what those bills are, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairman Benny. We do take note of your observation, and I hope our resource persons will be a little bit more prudent when it comes to the comments that they will be eliciting in this hearing. Next on our list is Congressman Adyong. Yes, Congressman Adyong.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Maayong gabi, Mr. President. Kabalo ko, allow me to first speak in Bisaya. Kabalo ko, murag gikapoy na ta kay sugod tag kaninang buntag. So, I will be very, very brief, Mr. Chair, in my clarificatory questions, Mr. Chair. Just allow me to thank the former president for gracing the invitation of this Quad Committee and for generously responding to the questions and for being candid with his responses, with his answers. Earlier, Mr. Chair, I noticed former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo was also joined this committee hearing, although briefly. And we also have the current Vice President in our midst. This is a rare occasion, Mr. Chair. It only speaks about the importance of the matter that is being discussed by the committee, that top officials of our land, two former presidents, were present in this discussion. It only speaks about the gravity and the seriousness and the importance of what we are discussing right now, Mr. Chair. So allow me also to at least to premise my clarificatory questions, because some of the questions that I would like to ask to our guest speakers, guest resource persons, have already been asked by some of my colleagues here, and I don't want to labor on those questions. But let me just premise my clarificatory questions. I would like respectfully, if the former president will indulge me with his responses, on the premise that I believe there are certain basic rules, no, that one has to follow, especially for government officials such as ourselves. Pardon me, Mr. Chair, pardon me, Mr. President, if I premise that on a very basic tenets, no, in a basic principle of how the democratic process is being exercised and upheld and being promoted in a country such as ours. Number one, the rule of law. Mr. Chair, I'm not a lawyer, although I do have high admiration to lawyers, because I know for a fact that law as a profession is not only noble, but it is also challenging. And we are joined here on this table, on this side of the table, brilliant lawyers, and even brilliant lawyers who are seated across our table, seated beside both sides with the former president, even seated behind the former president. I say it's a noble profession because lawyers are expected to uphold and to promote the basic tenets, which is the rule of law, and to uphold at least the due process, that the very essence of why we are having a very strong, and I suppose we still have a very strong criminal justice system. Because I know, Mr. Chair, as a lawyer, no matter how convincing the evidence being presented to an individual allegedly accused of any crime, a lawyer has to defend his client before any court of law in our land. So ganun po ka-challenging at ka-noble ang profession ng pagiging abogado. So I just like po to direct my clarificatory questions po to the former president. Mr. President, you were once a prosecutor, and tama po.
Yes, sir.
Thank you po. And Mr. Chair, if I also would like allow the former president to interrupt, just as similar with what Congressman Rog, when he also asked the former president, I would also like to have that kind of arrangement. He can answer me whenever he wants. Wala pong problema sa akin yun, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. President, you were once a prosecutor, and then you served as a mayor of Davao City, and also a former member of the House of Representatives, and then went back to being a mayor again, if I have my timeline correct. No? And then before you ran for the presidency in 2016. And I guess the reason why we invited you over to this committee hearing is also, apart from giving you your fair chance of responding to some of the allegations, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, of some of those individuals who were at some one way or the other were part of the implementation of the war against drugs in your administration, namely Colonel Garma, Colonel Leonardo. These are the individuals who came out and then with affidavits that they have signed, alleged some some things that happened during the implementation of the drug wars against the personality of the former president, Mr. Chair, and this is one way of giving you the fair chance of maybe responding to those allegations. And apart from that, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, you're correct. This is the primary consideration also of this Quad Committee, is to make sure that if there's any policies, laws, regulations in our land that have either weak or needs to be updated or needs to be amended, or for the Congress to pass a new law to strengthen our resolve in trying to protect our streets from illegal activities, criminalities, as well as balancing it with the upholding the due process of law. This is the perfect time for it. So again, I'd like to ask you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, when you earlier admitted po na you were the ones who ordered your the police, yung kill nga po, no? Sinabi niyo po. I presume you came from a position where, as a former prosecutor, there's something wrong with the criminal justice system in our country. I'd like to ask you, why po? I'm just curious po, no, Mr. Chair. Why did you? I don't know if that's an imposition on your part. Why did you have to go to length of ordering some policemen? Was there any wrong in terms of how our criminal legal justice system is being observed, practiced in this country?
Yes, sir. The matters of detention, very limited kasi that's about, you have 9 hours, 18 hours, and then 34. You know, sir, mag-imbestiga ka ng kaso. Kung anong sabihin itong tao na ito, you have to go out and find out the truth. And it takes time. So, in the meantime, you cannot hang on to this guy because there are periods of detention prescribed by law. So, yan ang problema, because if the lawyer comes, talagang i-release mo yan, and by the time that you discover kung ano ang sinasabi niya na totoo, ano at hindi, wala na sa stasyon. Release. Of course, the periods would depend on the gravity of the offense. 9-18, I think it's about 36 hours. That's the most. And medyo kulang yan, sir. And usually, if there is a lawyer and there is a demand for the release because the law says that they can only be detained for that so many hours, wala talaga tayong magawa. And by the time ma-verified natin yung totoo o hindi, kung nagsasabi ng totoo, hindi pa wala pang abogado, when we find out the truth, pagbalik natin, wala na. And he is gone forever. So, we are left with so many cases na ganun ang nangyari, sir. Or even sometimes na you have to detain a person and he makes a confession. By the time that you discover really the truth, based on his confession, wala na siya dyan. Pag-discover may only to find out there are serious issues or criminal offenses committed, wala na siya. Because that's the law. So, talagang nakatali ang ng pulis, sir, ang kamay. Because matagal na kasi ito, sir. This is a 1935 revised penal code. Hindi na na-amend yan, sir. So yung periods of detention, wala yan. Hindi na na-amend yan. So it's an outmoded, not effective, no longer applicable to the present day reality. Kasi noon, sir, mga kriminal, pwede takbo, magsakay ng karabaw, o mga sakyanan. Ngayon, sir, wala, they can move fast with all the available vehicles at their hand. So we have to amend the laws of criminal procedure, pati the criminal law itself. Sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Now,
Mr. Chair, with the kind indulgence
Yeah, please.
of
Yes,
Congressman
Mr. Chair.
Adjong, can I just, in relation to what he's trying to ask, I'd like to ask the former president, with due respect,
Yes, sir.
President. So you're telling us that the judicial system in this country is not that effective. You said it
No,
yourself.
it's not effective. It has become insufficient.
Insufficient, but you also said that it's not actually effective. Because if you're saying that, Mr. President, I'm kind of confused because you would be giving the authority to the ICC to come here and investigate. Because they were saying that the judicial system in this country is not effective,
Yes.
Mr. Chair. Therefore,
I have to be frank.
therefore, you are giving the right
Well,
for the ICC to come and investigate. Are you doing that?
I will tell them a different story.
Because what you said when you were president was quite different
Yeah.
to what you're trying to say now as a private citizen. When you were president, you were saying that there's nothing wrong with the judicial system in this country, so that the ICC has no right whatsoever to investigate. But now as a private citizen, Mr. Chair, I'm kind of confused because right now you're telling me that the judicial system in this country is insufficient and ineffective. Therefore, you are giving the right for the ICC to come in and investigate. Mr. Chair.
Civilian ako, sir. Iba naman yung presidente ako. That is a different story. Panahon-panahon lang yung lalabas sa bunganga mo.
So therefore, Mr. President, just one question uli, no? So are you trying to change your position now, being a private citizen, to what you said when you were president?
In what manner, sir?
As what you've said, that you were president then, now you're a private citizen. Because of that, you are able to say that the judicial system in this country is ineffective and insufficient, Mr. Chair.
Not ineffective, insufficient. Insufficient talaga.
Mr. President, I heard the word ineffective. I heard it.
Yes, sir. That's why I repeated it when I said
I have
ineffective.
I have big ears like you do, so I heard it, Mr. President.
Please proceed, Congressman Adjong.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. President, for that response. I believe, as a non-lawyer, I'd like to be enlightened. There are certain issues on the prescription of law. There are also, if I may be correct, I would be stand corrected if, for example, my interpretation of this is wrong. No, pero there are certain crimes with corresponding penalties. No. In fact, we have the heinous crime, we have the petty crimes, etc. So I'd like to ask po the former president again, and be elucidated. You said earlier that there's something probably weak in our criminal justice system. Am I correct in understanding your response? Yes.
Marami.
Yeah. Okay. So when you say there's something wrong or something weak in the implementation, what are we made to understand, Mr. Chair, that it's the policy or it's in the implementation
of
this?
It's in the law itself, sir. Talagang yung 16 6 periods of detention, very insufficient, sir, at this time. Because yung revised penal code, sir, was, was made in 1935. Yung wala pa yung itong modern mga sakyanan. Now, they can rob and as fast as they can in a jiffy and disappear.
Okay.
Noon kasi, sir, medyo mabagal. Wala
Mr. Chair,
masyadong sakyan.
If I may humbly request the former president not to address this representation as sir, I'm not comfortable with that. Okay lang po sa akin na congressman, but just to...
Oh, your honor na lang, sir.
Thank you po. Please continue po, Mr. President, with your response. And you were saying about the outmodeled na po or outdated na po ang ating...
Outmoded na talaga, sir. Even the periods of detention.
Okay, thank you.
We need to amend our criminal law and our procedure.
Please continue po. Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, I'd like also to ask the former president, no? Would you say that with the lack of, with the outmodeled na system na po ng criminal and legal justice system that we have, would you say that, thank you. To catch up with the crimes, I'd like, would it be okay to also engage in killing, supposedly or allegedly criminals in the streets?
Yan ang problema. Yan ang problema. Because of the limitations imposed by law in detaining a person, pag pawalaan mo yan, alam mo, ang pulis, mas marunong yan sa kriminal. Alam nila na pag nawala ito, sir, they would go back to either pickpocket or hold up. Kaya yung iba would result in the loose term salvaging. Okay. Pinapatay na lang nila, sir, para wala na silang problema because there would be criticism against them, either pickpocket or hold up. Kaya yung iba would result in the loose term salvaging. Okay. Pinapatay na lang nila, sir, para wala na silang problema because there would be criticism against them and the outcry of the public, and sometimes tinatapos na lang talaga nila.
Okay.
Ganon talagang istorya kasi prosecutor, dumaan ako prosecutor.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr.
Shortcut.
Chair,
Shortcut na lang.
okay. Mr. Chair, Mr. President, I believe you're familiar with the may saying po sa legal community na the law may be harsh, but it is the law, no? That to me, Mr. Chair, that can also be applied, and currently, no, the law may be weak, as you described it, no? That's why we are having this discussion. Also, is for this Quad committee to possibly amend or introduce any that would strengthen our policies in terms of criminal justice system.
That,
yeah, but a law, that logic can also be applied into my own understanding. A law can be weak, but it is the law. So that premise, Mr. Chair, exactly has to be observed in order to avoid people taking their justice into their own hands, no? Mr. Chair, would you agree with me on that, Mr. President?
correct, sir. So that to put a stop to it, there must be progressive laws from every now and then. So it is duty of Congress to listen to the police and the law enforcement agencies involved so that malaman nila what corrective measures that they can legislate so that these things will not happen or will not be perpetuated
by some.
Okay, Mr. Chair, those killings that had happened in the previous years, no? Policemen who or ordinary citizens who have killed, no? Their, certain criminals, because the way you characterize it, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, is that rapists, kidnappers, I believe in 100% that nobody in this room would ever support those kinds of individuals, the way you characterize them. Now, those, let's say, policemen, kasi the topic really is yung pag-order nyo po, no? Sa mga, ang sinabi nyo, you admitted na. By policy, you feel that you are responsible. But on the specific cases, sabi nyo, you are not bound legally to respond to those criminal cases individually, but the policy direction, you claim to be responsible and you take full responsibility in that. Now, those policemen who have, let's say, palagay po natin, who has implemented po, no, yung pagpatay po ng mga criminals in the streets. Would that be also, Mr. Chair, for me, help me understand po, Mr. President,
Yes,
would
sir.
that also fall under the category of taking the laws into their own hands? Because
No,
that's
sir.
precisely why we are avoiding those. I hope you would understand me po, Mr. President, because I came from a community, and I know fully that you understand this. I came from a community where there's a cycle of violence, that people tend to take justice into their own hands. Alam niyo po yan, yung
Correct,
Lido.
sir.
And I, for one, would like to strengthen our criminal legal justice system in order to avoid and put a stop to the cycle of violence. Now, those policemen who have killed, the word is extrajudicial killing kasi outside of the bounds of the law, who have killed individuals who are charged with, not even charged, but they suspected of involving themselves in criminalities. Would that be sufficiently or accurately fall under the category of the phrase to take justice into their own hands, which is diametrically opposed to the rule of law and the whole system of our governance, which is based on the democratic principles of separation of the
It is
judiciary, the legislative, and the...
It is always unlawful.
I'm sorry po?
Mali talaga. It's unlawful. Not lawful. Outside of a judicial pronouncement that you are... Pero wala na tayong death penalty ngayon. That's the problem.
Yeah. Okay, so what you're saying po, it is unlawful to kill outside of the bounds of the law. Is that what the former president is saying to the committee? Kasi my question po is, my question po, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, on the legal maxim that, the law may be harsh or the law may be weak, no? Unfortunately, in the way you describe it in our current legal system, it's weak. But we have to observe that. No, anything that is done outside of the bounds of the law.
Outside of the law
Outside of law
is illegal.
it is
unlawful.
illegal, unlawful. So therefore, Mr. Chair, may I deduce from the way the former president responded to my question, but so that I can be elucidated, those killings were unlawful and illegal.
Well, depends, sir. There has to be some a condition. Not all killings are legal, and not all killings are illegal. There are killings.
No, pardon me, Mr. President. Just to put into context, those individuals were killed by the orders of by your orders po, no? Admittedly kanina, yung sinabi niyo po. Would you categorize that as something illegal or unlawful?
That would be unlawful.
Okay.
Because kasi, sir, kung nasa custody na ng police, naka-handcuff na, nakatali na, what would be the point? Kasi ako, police, hindi trabaho ng lalaki yan. Totoo lang.
Okay.
I cannot, for the life of me. Pero kung may baril ka, papatulan talaga kita. That has been my as mayor. Papatulan talaga kita. And it had happened many times.
Okay.
I participated in the shootout early on when I was about just 3 months, Mayor.
So, yeah. Mr. Chair, if I may be continued, Mr. President. So those who have killed under the AJK, no, sinasabi po, the implementation of the war on drugs, those who are, kasi there are also cases wherein yung namatay po ay hindi nanlaban, no? So are we saying now, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, that those who have nanlaban cannot necessarily be considered illegal, but what about those na hindi ho nanlaban na bigla lang namatay? Can they also be considered as not illegal,
Then,
Mr. Chair?
Those police officers, law enforcement agencies, whoever they are, kung pinatay nila unlawfully, not in self-defense, not in the performance of duty, kung civilian ka or police ka, the performance of duty, which would include the elements of self-defense, talagang illegal yan.
Okay. But Mr. Chair, no, let me continue on, Mr. Chair, no. Let me also ask the former president, being a prosecutor himself. I think the bulk of the discussion that we're having right now is on the assigning of the term criminals, no? Because ako po, Mr. President, gumagamit din po ako ng hyperbole. And I'm sure karamihan po sa atin talaga ay it's just as figures of speech, no? Pag meron po tayong hindi magandang nakita, po pwedeng sabihin natin na you are so and so, no? Pag halimbawa meron akong kalaban or meron ako, pwede kong sabihin na ito si ano so and so, no? So those are just some mere accusations, no, allegations. Who do you think, or which agency of the government do you think has that mandate and again the mandate and the authority to assign the such and such person is criminal, and when can that, for example, I believe it's the court, no? And when can the court finally categorize you or call a certain individual allegedly of committing a crime criminal, Mr. Chair?
Sir, we have to go para hindi tayo mawala sa discussion.
Yes po, Mr. Chair.
If I may, I'm not trying to... Alam mo, sir, we have to start with the elementary thing. The law enforcement starts with the police. So he goes out there, enforces the law. If there is a violation, he makes the arrest. If there is an arrest made and there is a resistance, no person na ina-aresto niya and talaga nakita niya na it is a very serious one, the police, the trabaho of the police is not only to say that I am a police, that you are under arrest, but the police has to overcome the resistance physically. If there is a resistance, bugbugin na niya o anong para madala niya sa estasyon pagkalumaban and book him for the crime that the guy committed. Kasi pag lumaban yan, magsuntukan talaga, minsan nababatuta. And the police is right in making that arrest if there is a resistance. This is not to defend the police. Pero kung sila mismo, naalanganin na sila, o yung may raid, tapos may baril, hindi na kailangan sila magtanong ng ano, walang kaseremonya yan. It's either we say, you surrender, raid ito, at may maling galaw, the slightest move on the hand, even if it is equivocal kung ano ang dinudukot niya, basta may baril, the police can kill the person.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman. Now, that's given, for example, that scenario, no? Would you say, Mr. Chair, that I agree with you. Talagang may karapatan yung mga pulis mo mang-depensa. No? Even hindi lang ho pulis, no, Mr. Chair. Even yung mga ordinary tao, if you feel threatened, talagang you have the right to defend yourself. But again, going back, Mr. Chair, doon sa issue ng EJK, because this is what I'm trying to understand, Mr. Chair.
Extrajudicial killing, sir?
Yes po.
Sige.
Okay. This is what I'm trying to understand po, Mr.
Let's
Chair. No?
zero in on that issue, sir.
Yes po. The reason why I'm asking you this, Mr. Chair, is, again, remember po, Mr. Chair, I premised my question on the very basic principle of the rule of law, due process, and etc. So the question is, of course, tayo po, it's easier for us to accuse, no? And it's only for the courts to really find out whether that person is really guilty of committing such crimes or not.
Correct.
Now, and earlier, tinanong ko po kayo, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, kung ano po yung mga lapses ng criminal justice system natin, and you have mentioned several, no? Kaya nga po ang tanong ko, binabalikan ko po, kasi this is the contention of the discussion right now. Is it justifiable, for example, that those who's the power to designate, for example, if a person is guilty or not in certain crimes, can also be taken up, justice can also be taken up by ordinary policemen or any ordinary citizens to kill anybody charged of any criminalities without even allowing them to go to courts, no? Kasi that would be inimical again po to the due process and to the rule of law, and diametrically opposed to the rule of to the democratic processes that we have. That's what I'm trying po, Mr. President, to understand. Kasi this is all about EJK. And unfortunately, in the previous administration po, with all due respect, there are several also allegations of those who are not been suspected of engaged in illegal drug activities that have also perished during the actual operation of our police. Yun lang po yung gusto kong malaman so that I can also be elucidated on how we go forward in trying to introduce some laws or amend some laws, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President.
Hindi na kailangan, sir. Wrongfully killing a person is a crime. Kaya nga, hindi na kailangan na magsabi tayo na itong police na ito guilty. If pinatayan niya yan, sir, not in the performance of a duty, not making an arrest, and there is no resistance at all, papatayin mo ang tao unarmed, nakatali ang paa, pati nakatali ang kamay, that policeman belongs to the penitentiary.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, earlier, Mr. Chair, one of my colleagues here asked...
Congressman Adjong, you have 2 more minutes. No?
Okay, thank
So
you. I will wrap up.
Wrap up.
Yeah, I will wrap up. Mr. Chair, earlier, Mr. Chair, one of my colleagues here mentioned about in 2013, there was a study that came out po. It was a study came out placing Davao City as one of the safest cities in the world, no? Even surpassing on the city of Ontario and Tokyo and some. That was during your incumbency, Mr. Chairman, no, Mr. President, no? In 2013, you were still a mayor at that time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So placing Davao City as one of the safest cities in the world. Do you attribute that the study, the research that was conducted, do you attribute that to the number of arrests or the dispensation of justice for the operation of the courts, or do you attribute that to the EJ case, Mr. Chair, Mr. President?
Killing cannot be a solution to all of these things that we have to deal with in life. Yung ako ang mayor, sir, alam nila, when I was a prosecutor, alam na nila, including the police. Alam na ng police. Takot ang police sa akin kasi wala akong patawad. Alam na ng taong Davao na pagka ikaw ay nagkasala, talagang walang pa akong patawad. Hindi ako nagpapabor ng police, sir. Pag nagkamali ang police, ako mismo At ako mismo ang nagbubugbog sa pulis. Tanong ka ng, andito man si, ako mismo ang bumibira ng pulis pagka inaano nila yung sibilyan na what for every reason, layo na maglasing, magbugbog ng asawa. Pag pumunta yan sa City Hall, sir, talagang black and blue yan. Sipa, suntok.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I take that as yung...
Ganon ang disiplina, sir, sa pulis ko. Hindi ko pinagyayabang. Kasi may baril yung pulis eh. Kaya lang, alam nila may kasalanan sila. Kung hindi mo basta-basta gawin yan sa basta na lang. Pero ganon ang practice ko. Pinubugbog ko talaga.
Mr. Chair, I have here po the ito pong ranking ninyo, pang 12 po ang Davao the safest. Let me go back to the question po, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman. Ang gusto ko lang pong malaman is, of course, there are criteria, again, for...
Yes, sir.
There are criteria for Davao City to land 12 spot, no, among the safest. I wasn't really asking about how the former president and the former mayor dealt with the airing cops in the city. I was just asking about the study that was conducted. I'm sure hindi po you're very proud of, lahat naman to magiging proud po kasi safest city. I just like to ask po the former president, would he attribute this accomplishment to the killings of criminals, alleged criminals in the streets, no? Itong EJK, would he attribute that to the number of arrests or the fast dispensation of justice in the operation of the courts in Davao City?
Walang criminal kasi, sir, kasi nag-warning ako. Pag sinabi ko, when I became mayor, I'll give you 48 hours to pack up and disappear. Yan ang warning ko. Ngayon, after 48 hours, pag nakita kita,
ano po?
Tabla na.
Ano pong mangyayari after 48 hours pag nakita niyo po sila?
Yun ang hindi ko masagot, sir, sa iyo. Kasi gusto mo akong makulong, sir?
Hindi ho. Tinatanong ko lang ho kasi this is how you run.
Akala ko kaibigan tayo.
And Mr. Chair, Mr. President, I know that you've taken your job as mayor seriously. That's why I'm asking how did you able to manage to keep, crimes at a very low level po in those times. Kasi I also link this with the case of extrajudicial killings which you admittedly po kanina po na sinasabi ordering the police. I just want to put in everything into context so that I can understand. Now, Mr. Chair, for my final question, I believe I'm wrap up. For my final questions, earlier, Mr. President, Mr. Chair, you also mentioned, you were asked also, bakit you resorted to ordering the police pag nanglaban, patayin, pag ano, kasi ang response niyo po, I think it was Congresswoman Franz Castro who asked that question. And you responded to her na kasi medyo masikip na sa kulungan. Kaya para mas maluwag-luwag, patayin na lang yung iba, no? That's what I heard, Mr. President. So that I took that as the response of the President because that's what the response from the President. Now, I'm just curious po, Mr. President. For 6 years po, you were President, no? 17th and 16th, and I guess in 17th Congress, you were the President at that time. And there were several bills that were proposed by this Congress to reinstate the yung capital punishment, yung death penalty. First for heinous crimes and other illegal for illegal drug related crimes, no? And I believe the lead chairman of this committee, Congressman Ace Barbers, was one of the authors of those bills. I'm just curious, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, why didn't you put the weight of Malacanang to support that bill? Why haven't you certified that as an urgent bill?
Wala pa ako sa
Kung-
Malacanang, sir.
Ano po?
Wala pa ako sa Malacanang.
It was proposed po during your incumbency as president. That would have been a perfect opportunity for your administration to really fight criminalities, especially those who have been convicted of illegal drug crimes. So I'm just wondering po, Mr. Chair, that was the opportunity. Has there been any talks in Malacanang that such 7 bills that were introduced during the 17 Congress under your incumbency? In fact, I mentioned earlier, former President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo was here. I vividly recall when the voting was ongoing, President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo vote not to pass the reinstituting of the criminal offense of death penalty. So I'm just wondering po, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, that was televised po all over the country. Why didn't you put your weight, the Malacanang's weight, and maybe to
Are you
certify this as urgent bill?
Asking my honest opinion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Mr.
You
President.
restore the death penalty.
I'm sorry
Mas
po.
mabuti po, ibalik ninyo ang death penalty.
Yeah, yes, I agree with you po, Mr. Chair. In fact, in my own Sharia law, although it's not recognized by the Philippine judiciary, there's no criminal component on the PD 1083, but I do support, death penalty personally as a policy. Death penalty for certain crimes, heinous crimes, rape, etc.
Heinous.
I'm just heinous crimes. And I'm just curious po, Mr. Chair, and I want to understand from the perspective of the President, when he served as President for 6 years and 2 Congresses passed during his tenure as President, there were several bills introduced by the House of Representatives, one of which the authors is actually here, sitting there as a lead chairman. Why hasn't the President put the weight of Malacanang to push this further and make it as a law?
Yes, sir. Ang problema, ang Congress hindi mo kontrolado eh. In a Congress, it's a conglomeration of human. Some are libertarians, some are hardliners, some are mild-mannered. But on the average, sir, hindi mainit ang ulo. Hindi, exception, naging congressman ma rin ako. Pero iba ang ko, sir, because I've been trained as a prosecutor kasi for a long time. And besides, I was also teaching to augment my income kasi wala naman akong masyadong pera nung nag-asawa ako. Was teaching criminal law and criminal evidence. So, malapit talaga ako dyan sa crime. At stricto ako dahil nga natuturo ako. Alam ng pulis yan. Pati yung pulis na yan, wala yan silang patawad.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'd like to end my time, Mr. Chair, with the manifestation, if I may be allowed, Mr. Chair.
Very quickly.
Thank you. Very quickly, Mr. Chair. I was listening to the responses of the former president, and there are some allegations that were made today, which I believe the former president challenged anybody or any group to bring that to the courts. And that challenge, Mr. Chair, I take it as a form of the president's believing in the rule of law. I've just believing in the rule of law and the operation of our courts.
When there is 2 issues, sir, and we cannot understand each other, we go to court.
Yeah, I commend you on that, for saying that. I hope, Mr. Chair, that the same should have been also accorded and should have been also been extended to those who died in the streets. I believe the former president, by just encouraging anybody, any individual to go to court and file these cases, because I believe that's the proper venue for that.
Sir, there are independent investigations, investigative bodies. It is not only the police. You can rely on the NBI, the Human Rights Commission, and others. You can tap anybody there to help in the enforcement of the law against itong sabi mong illegal killings of criminals, or what they would call yung sa ating parlance ngayon as salvaging.
Yeah, thank you.
Congressman Adjong,
Again,
yes?
let me just put an end to my statement, Mr. Chair, if I may be allowed. Again, that encouragement from the former president to bring these cases to the courts, it's actually a manifestation that all of us here, even the former president, believes in the rule of law. And I hope, Mr. Chair, that out of the 333,000 or 2,000 or thousands who have died, sana nabigyan din ho sila ng ganong, they were also have accorded with the same privilege of, under the law, of innocence until proven guilty. It's only the court that can assign anybody whether that person is criminal, because there are corresponding crimes and with the corresponding punishment according to our law. So, Mr. Chair, I will end that with that manifestation, because I do not want, Mr. Chair, to be honest with you, to be honest to everybody here, I do not want the cycle of violence, no matter the intention, because I've lived that, I've seen that, and I know it will bring no good to everyone. I don't want EJK. I don't want the cycle of violence to happen. Mr. Chair, thank you very much. And maayong
Thank you very
gabi.
much.
Dagang salamat, Mr. President.
Thank you
Mr.
very
Chair.
much, Congressman Adjong.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Delima, former Senator Delima, I just want to take up some matters before I recognize you. Earlier, Attorney Degra called the attention of the committee about proposed legislation and what legislative act Quad has done or intends to do. I have here, Attorney Degra, 8 pages. If you want, I can read each legislation to you. House Bill 10986, House Bill 10987, House Bill 110843. All of these are new proposed measures. We have policy recommendations as well. For extrajudicial killings, we have policy recommendations as well, totaling to 8 when it comes to the issue of illegal drugs. We have proposed amendments for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 existing laws. We also have proposed legislation to repeal and revoke certain laws that are not anymore needed at this time, and possible enactments of other laws. I will give you a copy of this, Attorney Degra, just so that, you know, any of you, or actually there's more here in the back, if any of you have any questions about the intent of Quad and why we are doing this, and questioning if there are legislation that will be pushed after, during even the hearings, COMSEC, kindly forward this to Attorney Degra. And also, Attorney Degra, for your information, the chairmen serve as the principal authors to these House bills. With that being said, I just have a policy question. Kanina pa po, Mr. President, na babanggit tong pagbumunot, barilin. Tama po ba yun? Oh. Hindi po ba pwede, Mr. President, yung i-disable na lang kaysa patayin? Yung bang
Hindi, sir.
barilin na muna sa paa, sa braso, bakit kailangan
Sir,
patayin?
Pag bumunot yung tao na yung kriminal sa harap mo, or even if not a criminal o nakalasing lang, pagka bumunot yung baril siya, papunta yung baril sa direksyon mo, you are in... Sige lang kayo, sira ng plato dyan, maubusan tayo dito. Alam mo, sir, pagka nakatutok yan sa katawan mo, sir, that's the end of you.
Okay. No, I'm just curious.
Self-defense.
Yes, thank you very much, former President. To Chel Jokno, Attorney Chel Jokno, meron po bang handbook or paano po ba dapat ginagawa ito? Hindi ba dapat maximum tolerance ang ini-implement?
Yes, Mr. Chair. It's very clear both in the PNP manuals as well as the UN regulations that the use of lethal force is only to be done as a last resort. Klarong-klaro po yan, paulit-ulit yan nakikita sa both sa PNP manuals at sa United Nations guidelines.
Okay. Thank you very much. Former Senator Delima, before I recognize you, yung mga nanay po kasi ng mga biktima, magpapaalam na po sa atin. Kaya sa mga kinatawan at mga congressman na nandito, kung wala naman po tayong mga katanungan sa kanila, okay lang po ba na magpaalam na po yung mga nanay? Are you okay with that? Okay. But before they go, the chair will give you a minute or maybe 2 minutes each. Kung meron po kayong gustong sabihin bago po kayo umalis at umuwi sa inyong mga pamilya.
Maraming
unahin po namin kay Ma'am Lori Pasco. Ma'am Lori?
Magandang gabi na po sa ating lahat. At bago po kami umuwi ay gusto naming magpasalamat sa committee na ito na nagbigay sa amin ng pagkakataon upang maipahayag namin kung ano yung aming saloobin at maikwento namin ang aming mga karanasan at kung ano yung nangyari sa aming mga mahal sa buhay. At yung mga panawagan po namin na sana po ay magkaroon talaga ng hustisya ang aming mga mahal sa buhay. At magkaroon po talaga ng masusing investigasyon. Maraming salamat po.
Salamat. At ang susunod ko naman pong kikilalanin ay si Mary Ann Domingo. Ma'am Mary Ann Domingo.
Magandang gabi sa inyo lahat. Una sa lahat, nagpapasalamat po kami. Kami mga biktima na naimbitahan po dito. At sana po, tuloy-tuloy po na matulungan niyo po kami na magkaroon ng hustisya. Ito po ay hindi lang para sa mga namatayan, kundi sa mga nanay, sa mga nangulila, na magkaroon ng dignidad, muli magkaroon ng karapatang pantao kaming lahat. Sana po matulungan niyo po kami na mabigyan ng hustisya kaming lahat. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat po, Mrs. Domingo. At panghuli po, Ma'am Cristina Pascual.
Sa lahat po na nandito sa Congress, buong puso kami pong nagpapasalamat sa inyo na nararamdaman po namin na kasama namin po kayo sa nararamdaman naming bigat sa araw-araw po. Kaya po, wala po kami sawang nagpapasalamat po sa inyo. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat. Yes, ma'am. Pakipatay lang po yung mic pag hindi na po gamit. Yes, ma'am.
Maraming salamat po sa committee ito. Gusto rin po namin acknowledge ang iba pang mga pamilyang kasama namin. Nandito po sa likod. Sila Nanay Dalia.
Pwede po bang tumayo yung mga pamilya na nasa likod? Hindi po namin kayo nakilala kanina, kaya pasensya na po kayo. Pwede po kayong tumayo? Opo.
At ganun din po si Sister Lisa Ruedas, ang patuloy namin kasama sa paglalakbay. Si Nanay Sally, si Nanay Dalia, si Jane at si Nanay Purisima. Sila po ang mga pamilyang 8 taon na pong naghahanap ng hustisya. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat po at sa tiwala na ipinagkaloob niyo po sa Kongreso, sa Quad-Comm, at umasa po kayo na patuloy po natin hahanapin, maski mahirap man ang katotohanan, at hindi po tayo titigil upang mabigyan po ng hustisya ang maraming mga pamilyang nawalan. Kaya maraming salamat po sa inyong pagdalo sa oras at panahon. Senator Delima, former Senator Delima.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Your Honors, for allowing me to make an intervention. I just wish to comment on 3 points tackled during the questioning of the Honorable Congressman Digong and also the responses of the resource person, the former mayor, former president, to those questions. Number 1 is about the limited period of detention. So ang sabi po ng dating mayor, dating pangulo, under current realities, medyo hindi na ho ito sapat. So he is proposing amendment of the pertinent laws, particularly the revised penal code. Let me remind everybody po na hindi lang po ang batas ang kailangan nating i-amend, kasi nandyan mismo yan sa saligang batas sa konstitusyon, yung maximum period of 72 days as detention. Nandyan po yan. That's the maximum allowable period. Kaya yung tungkol nga po dun sa Anti-Terrorism Act, isa po sa naging issue, na ganun nga ho, na yung 24 days of detention na nakalagay dun sa Anti-Terrorism Act, hindi po tumutugma. And in fact, sobra dun sa sinasabing period of detention na pwede, but after that, dapat i-charge nyo na, hindi tumutugma doon sa provision of the Constitution. So kailangan ho natin, hindi lang batas, kung yun ho ang magiging posisyon ng Kongreso, ay dapat kailangan din i-amend ang Constitution. Pero syempre, hindi lang basta-basta dahil gustong i-amend, pag-isipan po ng husto yan. Kailangan mabalanse. What should be the exact position na talagang balanse na while upholding state interest in combating crime, palagi natin pong dapat rin irespeto ang mga individual rights in the Bill of Rights. Second point, yung tungkol po sa study na nabanggit po ni Honorable Digong. So it says that Davao City is among the safest. Let me point out po na yung study na yun, kung hindi po ako nagkakamali, crowdsourcing po yan. So it's not necessarily reliable, it's not scientific. Ang alam kong study na reliable and scientific, although nakalimutan ko na po kung anong eksaktong study yon, I can search my materials, I can review my materials. Yung sinasabi na yung Davao City ay number 1 ang sa murder, sa incidence of murder. At tumutugma po yan, consistent po yan, doon palaging sinasabi na pinapatay na lang kasi ang mga kriminal. Kaya, highest murder, but can you call that a safe city? Kasi yung murder, labag sa batas. Pwede bang safe ang isang lipunan kung basta na lang mga pinapatay na wala, na hindi dumadaan sa rule of law at wala nga tayong batas ngayon na kumikilala sa death penalty. So how can it be a safe city? Number 3, death penalty. Lagi po akong aalma kapag meron nagpro-propose ng death penalty. Pagkatapos naman kung mga anong insidente dahil nagkaroon ng mga high-profile heinous crimes, some would again propose death penalty. Kaya nga po yung sinasabi na yung sinabi hong listahan kanina ni Honorable Suarez, I actually support all of those. The policy recommendations, saka yung mga proposed bills, including the anti-EJK bill. I fully support those, except the one reimposing or seeking to restudy death penalty and eventually reimpose. Why? Number one, alalahanin ho natin, baka nakakalimutan po natin na meron pong linagdaan ang Pilipinas na sinatawag na Second Optional Protocol to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Nung pinirmahan ho natin yung Second Optional Protocol, we committed as a state party never to reimpose or restore death penalty. Nag-commit po tayo doon, nanumpa tayo na hindi na natin maiisip na i-reimpose ang death penalty. Now, isa pang rason kung bakit hindi ko talaga, never akong magsasang-ayon sa death penalty. Yung ating resource person, the former mayor and the former president, kasasabi lang po niya, yung justice system natin, insufficient, weak, inefficient, flawed, may mga diferensya pa ang ating criminal justice system. So kung ganun, dapat ayusin muna natin yung criminal justice system. Kasi pag ganyan na flawed, sigurado ako na magkakamali. May mga pagkakataon na magkakamali ang korte na mag-impose ng death penalty. Yung mga bansa nga, yung mga ibang jurisdictions na medyo advanced na yung kanilang criminal justice system, nagkakamali pa rin. There are really recorded, documented cases of erroneous convictions and erroneous executions. So tayo pa kaya? Na tayo na mismo ang nagsasabi, kulang pa, inefficient pa, flawed pa, weak ang ating justice system? And then lastly, marami na pong mga studies na ang death penalty is never a deterrent to the commission of crimes. So ano magiging silbi nun? Tama na lang po yung ang i-impose kapag mga hinos, mga malalaking kaso, mga murder cases o mga drug cases na mga malalaki, tama na lang pong reclusion perpetua. Basta dumaan sa tamang proseso. Basta maayos ang justice system na mabilis ang takbo ng mga kaso at mapanagot sila ng tama. So for those reasons, Your Honors, Mr. Chair, I register, as always, my position against any plan to reimpose death penalty. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, former Senator Delima. Next on our list is Congressman Sindanya.
Mr. Chairman, may I just interject for...
First, is this a short interjection?
Yes, it's just in connection also with what Senator Delima said and what Congressman Adjong...
With the permission of Congressman Sindanya. Make it short, please, former Senator Trillanes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. With all due respect to Congressman Adjong, but he's working on the assumption that seryoso, honest to goodness yung war on drugs. As we found out and as what I presented a while ago, everything is a ruse. Lahat po yun ay pagpapanggap lang. Kaya nga hindi niya masagot yung mga justifications dahil drama lang nila yon. It's just a form of social control, matakot lahat, and it was very effective. Sinampulan si Senator Delima, pinakulong na walang na fabricated charges, kaya wala na, umatras na lahat. So it was all about that, pero titignan nyo what happened after. Yung grupo niya, yung sindikato niya, sila Michael Yang, sila Pulong, Charlie Tan, started importing illegal drugs through the front door sa customs. Pero ang ginawa nila nung una, a few months nung start ng administration niya, binabasag nila yung mga shabu laboratory everywhere with the projection na seryoso sila sa illegal drugs, pero mga kompetensya nila yon, yung local shabu manufacturers. So nung na-abolish na nila lahat, inimport na nila through the front door. Ngayon, magkano ang presyo nung shabu at that time nung kanila tumaas? So, yung cartel nila ang nakinabang nung monopolization ng drug war. Kaya nga, sa galit niya, kunyari, sa pagpe-pretend niya ng galit siya sa illegal drugs, pero nung inimport yung 11 billion na shabu, yung 6.4 billion na shabu, then a few others na inimport, meron bang sinabihan si Duterte na kung sino yung drug lord behind it? Wala po. Tapos ito po yan. Sino po yung customs commissioner na nung time na yon? Si Faeldon sa 6.4, si La Peña nung 11 billion. 'Di ba? Pinadaan sa customs. Kung talagang galit na galit ka at hindi mo kasabwat yung nagpasok na yon, you should have hung these people kung talagang ganun siya magsalita eh. Pero anong ginawa po niya? Pre-promote niya. No? Pre-promote niya po ito. Pre-protectionan niya kasi mga kasindikato niya. Then, here comes si Peter Lim, who was identified as one of the drug lords. Pero same triad nila Michael Yang, kaya hindi nila mapatay, pinaalis na lang. No? Kunyari, nung nape-pressure, finailan po ng kaso, pero anong ginawa ho? Dinismiss. Despite the evidence. Tapos anong ginawa ho dun sa prosecutor na nag-dismiss? Pre-promote na judge. We have documented all this. Kaya we followed yung sequence ho. Kaya hindi kami mabobola ng mga ganyang parang seryoso. At kaya ako maraming nalilito na parang talagang gusto niyang ayusin lang talaga yung illegal drugs. Pero hindi.
Former Senator Trillanes, yes. Can we just...
just one more point, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, yeah.
Ito na lang po.
Mr.
We're going
Chairman,
off tangent from our discussion.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Congressman Fernandez.
Para to save time, no, Mr. Chairman, can we have the documents that na sinasabi mo a while ago? So, para lang po makuha namin yung lahat ng points that you have mentioned.
I already submitted to the COMSEC yung...
When was this?
Just today, yung nung present po.
Alright, thank you.
Kon po, yun po, as challenged earlier by Chairman Paduano, na pwede pong imbitahin yung AMLAC, but as I understand, hindi po exempted yung legislative inquiry because sinubukan na po namin yan. Pero exempted ang impeachment. So lalabas po yan eventually din. Pero yung ombudsman po, when they investigated this, they asked the AMLAC, kasi meron silang MOA ng exchange of information, nakuha nila yung mga dokumento na yon, kaya nga po na-validate yung aming mga dokumento. At ang magpapatotoo po nito, yung tinanggal sa pwesto na si Deputy Ombudsman Arthur Carandang. You can also invite him. Pero ito po yan. Nakita nyo po kanina nung sinabi ni Chairman Suarez na kung pwede siyang pumirma, ano hong ginawa niya, nang gulo siya, no? Pero baka pwedeng ibalik natin dun sa issue na pipirma siya ng waiver. O baka ngayon, nagtutulog-tulugan naman ho. So, pwede po natin papirmahin ng waiver pa rin.
Yes, Senator Trillanes, we'll get to that item later. So, I gave you your chance to speak. And I will now recognize Congressman Sindanya. Yes, Congressman Sindanya. Thank you.
May I interrupt?
Mr. Chairman.
Just one moment. I was not sleeping. I was praying
I hope
for his soul.
I hope I was included in your prayers, former President
Nagdarasal
Duterte.
po ako. Hindi ako nagtutulog.
Okay. Yes, Chairman Paduano.
Mr. Chairman, since former Senator Trillanes has mentioned about the authenticity of such, and you mentioned the name of former Deputy Ombudsman Carandang. So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we will invite former Deputy Ombudsman Carandang on the next hearing, Mr. Chairman. So move, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion that we invite former Deputy Ombudsman Carandang. Any second? Duly seconded. Any objection? There being none, Motion's approved. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Congressman-
I was informed by the COMSEC that the documents that this representation is asking is not a document. It's a video.
No, it's the presentation. We got the same one. We can have it reprinted, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, with the permission of Chairman Dan.
We will give it.
Let's recognize Congressman Sindanya, and then we'll move to the next matter because he has been patiently waiting for his turn. Kaninang umaga pa yan nandito, so pagbigyan muna natin. Congressman Sindanya, bagong upo po itong kinatawan ng kanyang party list. So, of course, you have 10 minutes. You may proceed.
Magandang gabi po, Mr. Chair. Maraming salamat. Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. Totoo po yun, kanina umaga pa, walang tayuan, walang kain, pero chill lang muna po tayo in the pursuit of truth. I'd like to begin with a short manifestation on the issue of the death penalty. I have to put on record that Akbayan maintains that this is an anti-poor measure. Alam naman po natin na ang karamihan, if not all ng nasa death row, ay laging puro mahihirap dahil hindi nila afford ang mahusay na abogado. Which calls to mind yung mga biktima ng EJK na karamihan ay mahihirap. Kaya nga po marami nagsasabi that the war on drugs is a war on the poor. Since this morning, I was intently listening to the former president. At nung umaga po, during the first interpellation, nabanggit ninyo na kayo mismo ay nagugulat na sa dami ng pinatay at inutusan yung pumatay, pero wala pang kaso laban sa inyo. Bakit po kaya ganon, Mr. Former President?
Ewan ko, sir. Ikaw lang makasagot niyan.
Marami pong salamat for responding, Mr. Former President. I'll now go to my questions, beginning with, earlier, you have reiterated quite often that you will cooperate. Papayag po kayong maimbestiga at magpaimbestiga sa ICC. Is that right, Mr. President?
Matagal ko na silang hinintay, sir. Ako nga ang lilipad na doon kung may pera lang. Sa totoo lang.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Former President, the second question is, doon po sa investigasyon na ito sa ICC, papangalanan niyo po ba ang mga miyembro ng Davao Death Squad?
Former President, yes?
Ako yun, sir?
Yes. Your response? Can you turn the mic on, please? Thank you.
DDS? Sila naman nagawa ng Davao Death Squad. DDS means Davao Development System. That's the correct term. You are abusing the phrase to the detriment of my city. Wala na tuloy pumupunta doon.
Still on the issue, Mr. Chair, willing po ba kayo na doon sa investigasyon na yon sa ICC na pangalanan ang mga biktima ng pagpatay sa Davao ng DDS, however you call it, simula nung kayo ay mayor hanggang sa kayo po ay maging presidente?
Hindi ako gumagawa ng listahan, sir, kung sino ang namatay. You have to go to the register of what's it? Civil registrar. At maybe sa police. Huwag ko sa akin, hindi ako bookkeeper para sa namatay ng mga tao.
Next question, Mr. Chair, Mr. Former President, willing po ba kayo na doon sa investigation na yon magsalita tungkol sa paggamit nyo sa PNP bilang inyong death squad through the reward system?
Yes, I will answer questions about DDS, but I have never said that I am willing to admit the existence of DDS to kill people.
In that investigation, Mr. Chair, Mr. Former President of the ICC, willing po ba kayong banggitin kung sino-sino ang nasa drug war at a drug war watch list ng Malacanang at ng police?
Magalit pa ako, sir, kung hindi nila gamitin. Totoo lang. I would be totally disappointed kung hindi nila gamitin yung listahan kung nasaan yan. And the people that they think could shed a light to the extrajudicial killing that happened in this country.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Former President, dahil willing kayo magpaimbestiga, naniniwala po ba kayo na kayo ay entitled to due process?
Natural.
Mr. Chair, Mr. President, bilang akusado, naniniwala po ba kayo na you and your co-accused deserve a fair day in court?
I am not an accused, and whoever you are pointing to as the other accused. So I cannot answer your question intelligently.
Mr. Chair, for an intelligent answer to the question, perhaps I'd like to direct this question to Attorney Chel Jokno. Attorney Chel, ano po ang rights of the accused sa ICC?
Parehas lang po sa mga karapatan ng isang akusado dito sa atin. The right to fair trial, the right to due process of law, the right to remain silent, the right against self-incrimination, the right to confront witnesses and cross-examine them. Halos magkatumbas po yan.
So kung magkatumbas po, kasama po dito, Mr. Chair, Mr. Attorney Jokno, yung they are innocent until proven guilty.
Yes, the presumption of innocence also, yes.
Thank you very much, Attorney Jokno. I'd like to end this very quick round of questions with this short manifestation, a reflection perhaps. Medyo nakakabagabag po na yung mga biktima ng EJK ay hindi na-afford nung parehong treatment na makukuha ng mga kakasuhan at kinasuhan sa ICC. Hindi po ito in-afford sa lahat ng pinatukhang, lahat ng nasa watch list. Hindi man lang nakatapak sa korte, hindi nagkaroon ng fair day in court. Nahatulan agad at nahatulan ng guilty. Ito pong mga makakasuhan po, I'm not yet done, Mr. Former President, Mr. Chair. Napakaswerte po. Should the former president face the ICC na hindi niya mararanasan ito dahil makakaranas siya doon ng due process na ipinagkait sa mga biktima ng tukhang at extrajudicial killings. That would be all, Mr. Chair. As promised, I will not consume my time.
I will respond by saying, sir, that I'm waiting for the warrant of arrest of the ICC at saan ba, sa Hague ba yan? Hindi pa ako nakapunta doon. Libre yan. Baski nag-handcuff ako, I would be very willing to go there. Anytime. Totoo yan. Sa edad ko na ito, I'd rather spend my time. Maganda ang prisuhan doon, sir, komportable. Doon na lang ako magtapos ng buhay ko.
Thank you very much, Congressman Sindanya. Next on the list, Congressman Bongalon. Congressman Jill Bongalon. Because Congressman Sindanya did not exhaust his allotted time, I will pass the time to you. So you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening to everyone. Magandang gabi po, former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, and to all other resource persons. Let's talk about the International Criminal Court. And I guess we have resource persons who are lawyers for the victims of the EG case. And I would like to direct my questions to the lawyers. Based from my understanding, Mr. Chair, the jurisdiction or the general mission of the ICC is to investigate and, if warranted, prosecute individuals who are charged with heinous crimes such as war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity. Would that be correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, including a fourth crime, crimes of aggression. So these are the only 4 types of crimes tried before the ICC.
Yes, and that includes crimes of aggression. And later on, nakuha po yung attention ko doon po sa opening statement ninyo
Attorney Conti, na merong hong kaso ngayon, no, ang biktima nitong EGK at nasa ICC na po ito. Tama po?
That is correct.
And-
The preliminary examination was opened February 2018, and the investigation was granted June 2021.
Before I go on the details of the case, would you care to update us what is the status of this case before the ICC?
So the status of the case at present, Your Honor, would be it's at the investigation stage. Bale po, yung sa atin po kasi ang kilala natin ay preliminary investigation. And there are two questions. One, what is the crime committed? And second, who is the perpetrator? Sa ICC po, sa preliminary examination, ang tinalakay na ay meron bang crimes against humanity na ginawa sa Pilipinas? Meron. Kaya nasa second stage na po tayo, who is most responsible or who are most responsible for these crimes against humanity. The ICC is in the process of determining these people so that they can issue either summons or warrants of arrest before trial can begin.
You mentioned a while ago that it was already determined that there is a crime against humanity. And you are referring to the war on drugs.
Yes,
Is
Your
that
Honor.
correct?
Yes, Your Honor. The ICC opened the investigation upon the request of the Office of the Prosecutor, approving the request because they believe that there is reasonable basis to believe that crimes against humanity were committed in the Philippines within the scope of November 2011 to about June 2016, murders and other inhumane acts which happened in Davao City, and from July 2016 to March 2019 nationwide. So that is the scope of the investigation, temporal and geographic.
Part of your statement earlier, you mentioned that we charge him as liable for heinous crimes. Heinous crimes. He is liable for conspiracy because of the institution of a state policy to neutralize whomever he identified as so-called enemies of the state under the guise of anti-criminality.
Yes,
Would
Your
you care to explain and expound this statement?
Your Honor, actually, part of that is derived, in fact, from ICC documents, both from the OTP, or the Office of the Prosecutor request to open the investigation, and the decision agreeing to such. This conspiracy says that the killings were premeditated murders. Ang lumalabas po, kung magre-refer po ako sa sinabi kanina ng isa pong resource person, si Senator Trillanes, the war on drugs was a ruse. Nabanggit ko rin po na hindi naman naging quote-unquote talagang gera, kundi naging massacre ng mahihirap. Ang kinalabasan po, gagawa ng kumbaga enemy. Ang kalaban daw ay droga, at under that, mag-ooperasyon. Sa ilalim ng mga operasyon, nagkaroon po ng planting of evidence, fabrication of evidence, para mabuo yung itsura na parang may nangyayari sa war on drugs. Pero po sa totoo, ito po ay mga patayan na talagang isinagawa para lang iswak doon sa operations. Kung ididikit ko din po doon sa dati na nating na bulatlat, pati po mga politically motivated crimes or politically motivated murders, dito na rin ipinasok sa quote-unquote war on drugs.
Earlier, we had a discussion that it was mentioned that guilt is personal. And as a lawyer, I understand that if we go about with the provisions of the revised penal code, Title 2, which refers to the persons who are criminal liable for felonies, yung Article 16 nang sinasabi doon, yung mga principal, accomplices, and accessories. And yung Article 17, sinasabi po doon yung tatlong klase ng principals. Principal by direct participation, principal by inducement, and principal by indispensable cooperation. Yung principal by direct participation, that is what we are referring to guilt, which is personal. And you mentioned a while ago that you are charging the former president because of the conspiracy. And also, he is liable as principal by inducement or principal by indispensable cooperation. Would you care to expound and explain this, Attorney Conti?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Chair, I would like to just clarify also that when you say guilt is personal, it doesn't mean that you have to be on site. You don't have to be the one who pulled the trigger. When you say guilt is personal, it means that you participated in some way or another in the commission of the crime. And when you planned or masterminded a crime, that is guilt that is personal as well. And so the participation of someone by inducement, nagbigay ka ng reward, sinabi mo, gawin mo ito, babayaran kita, that is inducement. By indispensable cooperation, bubuksan ko yung pintuan, gagawa ako ng policy para makapatay ka. At pagkatapos niyan, sisiguraduhin kong hindi ka mapaparusahan o maiimbestigahan. That could be principal by indispensable cooperation.
And a while ago, again, going back to the issue or topic of conspiracy, basically conspiracy means the act of one is the act of all. And how would you allege that the act of these law enforcers will also charge the former president for the victims of these extrajudicial killings?
Well, one, Your Honor, the character itself of crimes against humanity says that this is widespread and systematic killings. At ibig sabihin po ay may sistema na inilagay ang isang nakatataas na opisyales. Usually ay nasa gobyerno para utusan yung mga papatay, kumbaga. At pangalawa, ang konsepto po kasi ng conspiracy ay nag-usap-usap kayo, pinagplanuhan. At kung mai-establish ng ICC, and we believe so, kung mai-establish ng ICC na yung mga patayan ay konektado lahat sa war on drugs, konektado nun sa directives ni Duterte, maituturing po itong conspiracy o pinag-usapan. In fact, Your Honor, when we go back to the concept of negation and neutralization, the policy says so. And we can pull up a lot of police reports where the police would say, oh, we neutralized the suspect. And it is clearly they fatally shot the suspect. Meaning, sinabi mo po na ganito, and this is how it was interpreted on the ground. Yung pong mga police report, klaro ang sinasabi, when you neutralize, you kill that person.
So basically, in layman's term po, Attorney Conti, because of the policy on the war on drugs of former President Duterte, and that is being implemented by the law enforcers, ibig sabihin, they can all be charged for the crimes against humanity because of that policy and implemented by these law enforcers.
A clarification, Your Honor, in crimes against humanity, and if this is charged before the International Criminal Court, they will only haul to court the most responsible, those who bear the greatest responsibility.
And in this case, Attorney Conti, who appeared to be the most responsible?
Clearly, the most responsible for crimes against humanity in the Philippines, in the acts of murder and other inhumane acts, would be none other than President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. That would include some other lower officials, perhaps Senator Bato de la Rosa, who also served as the chief of police during that time.
Are you familiar of the Senate inquiry that was conducted a week ago?
Yes, was it a week ago? I think so. This is the Senate inquiry also on they call it the Philippine War on Illegal Drugs.
And later on, and a while ago, we also heard the former president reiterated his statement in which he said that I take full legal responsibility on the policy and the implementation of the war on drugs. Would that be correct?
Yes, Your Honor. I also heard him say that he would also like to bear the responsibility for the consequences, legal and illegal.
With that statement, matutulungan po ba kayo at yung mga biktima o pamilya ng biktima nitong EGK doon sa kaso sa ICC?
To some extent, Your Honor, yes. Mr. Chair, the admissions before the legislative bodies in the Philippines could serve well in the investigation where they are determining who is most responsible. Ito na nga po, ang tanong nila, sinong may kasalanan, may umaamin. But moving forward into trial, there would be some sort of processes before these statements could be taken as evidence, but it's just a matter of procedure. Pwede pong gamitin ang mga sinabi ni Duterte dito at sa Senado sa pagbubukas po ng trial sa ICC at sa kahit na ano pa man pong korte.
I've seen one of your interviews in the television, and yet you are hopeful that before the 2024 ends, a warrant of arrest will be issued by the International Criminal Court. Inaasahan niyo po ba talaga na lumabas bago matapos ang taon ngayon?
Well, yes, Your Honor. But of course, there are processes with the ICC that are out of our control.
Mr. Chair, I just would like to share and inform everyone that earlier today, the Executive Secretary, former Chief Justice Lucas Bersamin, stated that if the former president desires to surrender himself to the jurisdiction of the ICC, the government will neither object to it nor move to block the fulfillment of his desire. Can we ask the reaction or the comment of the lawyers of the victims?
It would be nice to do that, sir, but they do not have any
I think, Mr. Chair, if there's a question with regards to the ICC, the interpretation of the statement of the Executive Secretary is that if the ICC will issue a warrant of arrest and the Interpol is going to execute the warrant of arrest, the Philippine government, the Marcos administration, will not object to it and will allow the serving of the search warrant against President Duterte or whoever is the subject of such search warrant, Mr. Chair.
Yes, I fully agree, Attorney Colmenares. And in fact, that is what is stated in the second paragraph of the statement issued by the Executive Secretary, which I quote, "But if the ICC refers the process to Interpol, which may then transmit a red notice to the Philippine authorities, the government will feel obliged to consider the red notice as a request to be honored, in which case the domestic law enforcement agencies shall be bound to accord full cooperation to Interpol pursuant to established protocols." So before I would elicit your comment or reaction, Mr. Chair, I would like to ask the comment of our former President Duterte about this issuance of the Executive Secretary.
I'm happy with the narration of whatever says there is. Ang problema, walang jurisdiction. Bigyan mo muna ako ng jurisdiction before anything else. Before you move, jurisdiction muna. May jurisdiction ba sila?
Okay, Mr. Chair, I would like to ask the lawyers from
Yes.
the NUPL, or probably Attorney Jokno can also explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The ICC has jurisdiction. When we signed the Rome Statute, it was stated there, Article 127, that the ICC continues to have jurisdiction even if a country has withdrawn, if the proceedings have been instituted before the effectivity of the withdrawal. So 2017, na-file ang kaso originally, and then 2018, ito namang sa Rise Up Mga Pamilya, effectively March of 2019, ang withdrawal ng Pilipinas. So it has been, it has jurisdiction under Article 127. Bakit nilagay sa ICC yon? Kasi Mr. Chair, pag wala yon sa ICC, ang gagawin na lang ng mga presidente at mga prime minister, pag may kaso sila sa ICC, magwi-withdraw lang sila, wala nang mangyayari. Pero nilagay ng ICC yun na pag nasimulan na ang investigasyon, bago maging effective ang withdrawal mo, the ICC has jurisdiction. The second point, Mr. Chair, is this. Doon sa ICC, mayroong complementarity clause. Ang nakalagay sa ICC complementarity clause is precisely this. if the person is being investigated or prosecuted sa bansa na kung saan siya, then ICC genuinely investigated or prosecuted, then the ICC will not admit the case. Inadmissible siya. Ngayon, ang tanong, may kaso ba o investigasyon o prosecution ang mga akusado sa ICC? Answer, no. So therefore, hindi magti-trigger ang complementarity. And of course, nabanggit kanina, Mr. Chair, may admission mismo si dating Presidente Duterte na ang mga korte natin dito ay ineffective, inefficient. Talagang magagamit po yan, Mr. Chair, sa ICC because the ICC also has a phrase na pag sinabi niya, kahit pa kinasuhan ka sa Pilipinas, pero ito ay inability or unwillingness, ibig sabihin, hindi makadeliver ng accountability, then the ICC continues to have jurisdiction. So the ICC has jurisdiction because of those terms, Mr. Chair. And last point na lang, Mr. Chair. Pag pumirma tayo ng kontrata, we subtract something from our sovereignty. When we signed the protocols with the Interpol, na pag may sineserve kayo dito na warrant of arrest, susundin namin yan, that's part of our giving up a part of our sovereignty doon sa ganyang klase na obligasyon. The same din sa ICC. At hindi maganda, Mr. Chair, na pag sakali hindi i-fulfill ng Philippine government ang pinirmahan niya sa Rome Statute many years ago, ang sabihin ng international community, hindi pala kayo mapagkatiwalaan Pirma kayo ng pirma ng kontrata, pero pag-alanganin na o treaty, pag-alanganin na atras kayo. So it is also to the interest of the Philippine government na i-fulfill ang obligasyon sa ICC precisely because we have committed ourselves to do our obligation. So in any case, Mr. Chair, the ICC has jurisdiction and we are supposedly bound dapat to implement that jurisdiction, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, is it correct to assume that the subject matter of the case before the ICC or the crimes that we are referring to are crimes committed before the withdrawal?
Yes, Mr. Chair. That is correct, Mr. Chair.
If I may add, Mr. Chair and Your Honors, that was one of the issues taken up by the pretrial chambers. Ito na po yung court ng International Criminal Court when it granted the request of the prosecutor to conduct a formal investigation. In September 15, 2021, sa isang written decision ng pretrial chamber, they found, number one, that there was reasonable basis to proceed with the investigation, and number two, that the case falls within the court's jurisdiction. Hindi po nila papayagan ang prosecutor na mag-imbestiga sa isang kaso kung wala naman jurisdiction ang ICC. Kung ganun po, dapat matagal na nilang dinismiss ang kaso. It's very clear under the rulings of the ICC as well as the Rome Statute, which is the treaty that the Philippines ratified, that that jurisdiction exists.
Mr. Chair, nais ko rin pong magdagdag dun sa mga sinabi nila Attorney Nery Colmenares and Attorney Chel Jokno. Bukod po sa Rome Statute itself, bukod po sa pronouncement ng pretrial chamber ng ICC, ang mismong Korte Suprema natin, in the 2021 case of Pangilinan versus Cayetano, I quote from the decision penned by Senior Associate Justice Marvic Leonen. What is the effect of withdrawal? Yun po ang issue na sinagot dun sa ruling na yun. Withdrawing from the Rome Statute does not discharge a state party from the obligations it has incurred. Then the Supreme Court proceeded to say, a state shall not be discharged by reason of its withdrawal from the obligations arising from the statute while it was a party. Its withdrawal shall not affect any cooperation with the court in connection with criminal investigations and proceedings in relation to which the withdrawing state had a duty to cooperate and which were commenced prior to the date on which the withdrawal became effective. So malinaw, kahit nag-withdraw na dun sa mga alleged crimes against humanity committed within the period of 2016 to 2019. I'm sorry, 2011. May I correct myself? 2011 to 2019. Yung 2011, yun po ang date na rinatify ng Senado yung Rome Statute, na naging officially member state tayo ng Rome Statute. Yung 2019 naman ay yung date na naging effective yung withdrawal. Kasi winidraw po tayo ng dating Pangulong Duterte sa Rome Statute noong March 2018. So 1 year after that, March 2019, naging effective yung withdrawal. Nakasabi, malinaw talaga yan sa Rome Statute, na habang miyembro ka, meron kang obligasyon to cooperate kung ano man yung mga proceedings. So miyembro pa tayo from 2011 to 2019, kaya pwede pa na mag-imbestiga ang ICC. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you for
Your
that.
Honor, may I be given a chance to respond? Marami na masyadong tao ang sasagsalita against me. At least give me also only one person to, my lawyer, to give his piece of the legal issues involved. To be fair,
With the indulgence of the members of the committee, we will allow the lawyer of the former president to speak before the Quad. But Attorney Medjaldea, please be reminded that the time will be limited.
Yes,
So you are given 5 minutes.
This will be very short, sir. Ma'am, we withdrew from the statute in 2018, right? Secretary Delima?
March 2018, so 1 year after
Yes.
that is the effectivity.
1 year after that. And under that provision, we were given a period of 1 year within which to conduct our investigations, right?
Opo?
Mr. Chairman, just a point of order. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Point of order.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chairman, let me remind the resource person, former Secretary Meldia, you cannot ask question to a
sorry.
fellow resource person. If you want to ask question, you course through it to another member of this
sorry.
committee. Please refrain and can you rephrase your point or you can manifest your position?
Under the statute, Mr. Chairman, we had a period of 1 year. The ICC had a period within a period of 1 year to conduct the investigation. The fact is there was no investigation ever conducted, right? Okay, so that's for you to. Second, there was a decision rendered by the ICC in 2021. It was a decision wherein 3 of the justices said that the investigation should proceed, while 2 others dissented.
It's still a decision.
The 2 of those who dissented mentioned that we could no longer proceed with this because there is no longer any jurisdiction on the part of ICC. They were outvoted. But did the 3 however, the 3 did not take note of the jurisdiction, did not issue on the issue of jurisdiction. I think we should review the decision on that, sir. I think there is a misrepresentation. There was no mention about any jurisdiction.
If they had no jurisdiction, how could they rule?
They had no jurisdiction, Mr. Chairman.
How could they rule then?
Mr. Chair?
Okay, we don't want this to become a debate among the resource persons. There was a question raised by Congressman.
Sir, can I just be, hindi ko lang maano because unang-una ho, nagkaroon ng desisyon ang ICC 3 and 2, okay? 2 dissented, saying that we no longer have any jurisdiction over this case. The 3 others rendered the decision saying that the investigation should proceed, but never touch on the issue of jurisdiction. So up to this point in time, Mr. Chairman, we submit that there is still no jurisdiction which has been ruled upon by the ICC. That's why up to now, they cannot even move here.
Okay, thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman,
Thank you, Attorney Mejaldea. Does that satisfy Congressman Bungalon?
Yes, I would like to thank our resource persons for giving us the explanation on the issue of jurisdiction. Anyway, Mr. Chair, to end the discussion on the jurisdiction, probably we can just ask one explanation from the lawyers and one explanation from the counsel of former President Duterte, and then I'll shift to another issue, Mr. Chair, just to settle everything about jurisdiction. Anyway, what is clear right now is that there is an ongoing investigation with the ICC, and we cannot settle that issue here in the Quad-Comm hearing, Mr.
Chairman.
That is correct.
Mr. Chair.
Attorney Mejaldea has already stated that the decision was, there was no jurisdiction, if I understood it correctly. And what you're saying, Congressman Bungalon, is that you will ask another lawyer to dispute the fact that the statement made by Attorney Mejaldea is not true? Is that what you mean?
Because when the former executive secretary was explaining, I guess Attorney Nery Colmenares would like to answer in response to the statement made. And after giving Attorney Colmenares a chance to explain, then we will also give another chance. And that would be the end, Mr. Chair, on the issue of jurisdiction.
Okay, if that is the agreement of the members of the committee, then the chair will allow our resource persons to reply to the questions raised by Congressman Bungalon.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr.
Why are we even discussing this ICC issue? I think mas meron pong mga importante that need to be settled. And as a matter of fact, Mr. Chairman, maraming different views ang members. Like for example, ako, talagang we have the pronouncement that let the ICC get the documents from us. Hindi po para i-discuss natin yung mga bagay na ito dito sa Quad-Comm. We have agreed that let the ICC do their thing and we will do our thing as well, Mr. Chairman. So I believe we stop this discussion about ICC, Mr. Chairman.
In fairness to Congressman Bungalon, he has the floor. Congressman Fernandez. And 1 minute suspension as requested by the Vice President. Hearing is resumed. So earlier, before we suspended, there was a question raised by Congressman Bungalon, where the former executive secretary has replied and has stated his reply as the ICC has no jurisdiction. And in order to be fair, we'd like to get likewise the side of the lawyers who may probably dispute the statement made by the former executive secretary. And after that, we will again give the former executive secretary the opportunity to again reply. To be fair, yan po ang ating ano. So at this point, you may ask the question, Congressman Bongalon, to whoever you want among the resource persons to reply.
We just want to hear the comment of Attorney Colmenares and then
Thank you. Thank you,
followed by
Mr.
the
Chair.
Executive
Short lang actually to. Una muna, Mr. Chair. It's not true that there is any section in the Rome Statute that says that the prosecutor has to investigate within 1 year. There is no such rule, Mr. Chair, and probably the Honorable Executive Secretary is mistaken in the reading of the Rome Statute. Second, Mr. Chair, the decision of the pretrial chamber is that the investigation should continue. At klaro naman, Mr. Chair, na ang desisyon doon ay hindi nagsabi na hindi kami tutuloy, walang jurisdiction. The Executive Secretary is citing the dissenting opinion, but we all know that the ruling of the majority is the case. So even if may nag-dissent doon, the fact is the ICC has decided. So basically, the investigation continues, may jurisdiction ng ICC, and if the former president gusto niyang i-challenge yun, then he can always go to the ICC and file a motion, but as long as the decision stays, and the investigation is continuing, and we are hoping that it will end before the end of this year, and sana may warrant of arrest, and then President Duterte will probably be the first Asian to be tried in the ICC. Salamat po.
Thank you, Attorney Colmenares.